In a small village in Nigeria, life was simple and filled with the warmth of family. 11-year-old Amina lived with her mother, Fatima, and her stepfather, Abubakar. Initially, Abubakar was kind and supportive, helping Fatima run their modest household. Amina adored her mother and enjoyed spending afternoons helping her cook traditional meals. The laughter that echoed through their home was a testament to their close-knit bond. However, as time passed, Amina began to notice subtle changes in Abubakar's behavior. What once felt like innocent affection turned into unwanted touches. Amina dismissed her discomfort, believing that perhaps she was overreacting. She wanted to trust her stepfather, who had become a father figure in her life after the loss of her biological father. But deep down, she felt a growing unease that she couldn't quite articulate. One evening, while Fatima was busy preparing for a community gathering, Abubakar called Amina into his room under the pretense of needing help with something. As soon as she entered, the atmosphere shifted. Abubakar's demeanor changed. He locked the door behind her and made inappropriate advances that left Amina confused and terrified. She froze, unable to comprehend what was happening. Afterward, Amina felt a whirlwind of emotions: fear, shame, and confusion. She wanted to tell her mother but feared that no one would believe her or that it would destroy their family. So she kept silent, convincing herself it was an isolated incident and that things would return to normal. Little did she know that this was just the beginning of a long and painful journey. As weeks turned into months, the abuse became a regular occurrence. Each time Abubakar violated her trust, he would threaten her to ensure her silence. "No one will believe you," he would say with an intimidating glare. Amina felt trapped in a nightmare from which there was no escape. She started avoiding him whenever possible, but found it increasingly difficult as he manipulated situations to isolate her. Amina's once vibrant spirit began to dim. At school, she struggled to concentrate on her studies and withdrew from friends who noticed the change in her demeanor. The joy of childhood faded as she grappled with secrets too heavy for a girl her age to bear. It felt as if the world around her continued to spin while she stood still in a dark corner of despair. The years passed slowly for Amina as she endured the abuse in silence. Her mother remained blissfully unaware of the torment lurking within their home. Fatima often praised Abubakar for his hard work and dedication to their family, unaware of the monster he had become behind closed doors. Amina felt increasingly isolated. She longed for someone to notice her pain but feared the consequences if she spoke out. The burden of keeping such a significant secret weighed heavily on Amina's young shoulders. She often found solace in writing in her journal, pouring out her feelings onto paper as a way to cope with the emotional turmoil inside her. Yet even this small act of self-expression felt dangerous. If Abubakar discovered it, he would surely retaliate. Tragedy struck when Fatima fell ill and passed away unexpectedly. The loss shattered Amina's world. She felt as though the only person who understood and loved her unconditionally was gone forever. With Fatima's death came an overwhelming sense of loneliness and despair. Abubakar's true nature emerged even more starkly in this vulnerable time as he intensified his control over Amina. Without Fatima's presence to shield her, Amina became even more isolated from the outside world. Friends who once offered companionship now seemed distant as they focused on their own lives and families during this tragic time. Grief consumed Amina, but so did fear. Fear of what awaited her now that she was alone with Abubakar. As months passed after Fatima's death, Amina's situation worsened. Abubakar's abuse escalated alongside his emotional manipulation. He would often remind Amina that no one cared about her now that her mother was gone. This constant barrage of psychological torment pushed Amina closer to a breaking point. One night, after another brutal encounter, Amina sat on the floor of her room weeping silently into her hands. In that moment of despair, something shifted within her. A flicker of defiance ignited by years of pain and suffering. She realized she could no longer remain silent. If not for herself, then for others who might be suffering in silence like she had been. With newfound determination, Amina decided it was time to speak out about the abuse she had endured for so long. Her heart raced at the thought of confronting Abubakar or telling anyone else about what had happened. Yet she felt an urgency rising within her, a need for freedom from the chains that had bound her for years. Amina reached out to an old friend from school named Zainab, whom she trusted implicitly. They had shared countless childhood memories together before life had taken them down different paths after Fatima's death. Zainab listened intently as Amina recounted everything: the abuse, the fear, and the loneliness that had engulfed her life since losing her mother. Encouraged by Zainab's support, Amina began seeking help from local organizations dedicated to protecting children from abuse. Together, they visited a nearby community center where they met with counselors who specialized in trauma recovery for young girls like Amina. The counselors provided a safe space for Amina to express herself without fear of judgment or retaliation from Abubakar. They assured her that what happened was not her fault and that there were people willing to help bring an end to the cycle of abuse she had endured for so long. As days turned into weeks filled with therapy sessions and support from Zainab and the counselors at the community center, Amina grew stronger emotionally and mentally. She learned about legal rights for victims of abuse and how important it was to report such crimes, not only for herself but also to protect other children who might be vulnerable. After much contemplation and encouragement from those around her, Amina made a courageous decision. She would report Abubakar to the authorities despite knowing it could lead to significant backlash against both herself and Zainab for speaking out against an adult male figure in their community. With Zainab by her side for moral support, Amina approached local law enforcement officials who were known for taking such cases seriously. As they sat down with an officer named Inspector Ibrahim, an empathetic man who understood the complexities surrounding cases like hers, Amina found herself trembling yet resolute. When Inspector Ibrahim asked about what had happened over those painful years with Abubakar, tears streamed down Amina's face as she recounted every detail: the fear, shame, isolation. Everything she had kept bottled up inside for so long began pouring out like a dam bursting open after years of pressure building behind it. After filing the report against Abubakar, Amina faced immediate consequences within her community. Whispers followed her wherever she went. Some people expressed disbelief while others cast judgment upon both herself and Zainab for daring to speak out against an adult male figure. Despite this backlash, there were also voices of support emerging from unexpected places. Women in the village who had faced similar struggles began reaching out privately to offer solidarity while sharing their own stories about overcoming obstacles related specifically to societal stigma surrounding sexual abuse victims within their culture. Amina's heart ached as she navigated this new reality. The weight of her decision to speak out felt both liberating and suffocating. She was determined not to let the negativity deter her. Instead, she focused on the support she received from those who understood her pain. Amina began attending group therapy sessions organized by the community center, where she met other survivors who shared their experiences. Hearing their stories made her feel less alone and gave her hope that healing was possible. As investigations into Amina's case progressed, she learned about the legal system and what to expect in court. Inspector Ibrahim kept her informed, explaining the steps involved in bringing Abubakar to justice. Amina felt a mix of anxiety and determination. She knew that testifying would be a significant step toward reclaiming her life, but also feared how it might affect her emotionally. The day of the court hearing arrived, and Amina stood outside the courthouse, heart pounding in her chest. Zainab held her hand tightly, offering silent encouragement. As they entered the courtroom, Amina's eyes scanned the room, landing on Abubakar sitting at the defendant's table. His presence sent chills down her spine, but she reminded herself of why she was there: to seek justice and protect others from suffering as she had. When it was time for Amina to take the stand, she felt a surge of fear wash over her. The courtroom was silent as she approached, and all eyes were on her. Inspector Ibrahim gave her a reassuring nod, reminding her that she was strong and brave for speaking out. As she sat down and looked at the judge, Amina took a deep breath and began recounting her story. With each word, memories flooded back, both painful and empowering. She spoke about the years of abuse, the fear that had silenced her for so long, and how Abubakar had manipulated her into believing it was her fault. The prosecutor listened intently, asking questions that allowed Amina to clarify details and express how deeply this experience had affected her life. After Amina's testimony, it was time for Abubakar's lawyer to cross-examine her. The defense attorney attempted to undermine Amina's credibility by questioning why she hadn't spoken out sooner, or why she hadn't told anyone about the abuse while it was happening. Each question felt like a stab to Amina's heart. She fought back tears as she responded with honesty about her fear and confusion. Zainab watched from the gallery, feeling anger rise within her at how Amina was being treated. She wanted to shout in defense of her friend, but knew that staying calm was essential for Amina's sake. The courtroom atmosphere shifted as witnesses began to corroborate Amina's story. Friends who had noticed changes in her behavior and teachers who had seen signs of distress. After days of testimonies from various witnesses, including community members who supported Amina, the trial reached its conclusion. The judge instructed everyone to return for the verdict announcement. Amina sat nervously beside Zainab, clutching her friend's hand tightly as they waited for what felt like an eternity. Finally, the moment arrived. The judge entered, and silence enveloped the room as he read aloud his decision. In light of the evidence presented, I find Abubakar guilty of child sexual abuse. Relief washed over Amina like a wave crashing against a shore. Tears streamed down her face as joy mixed with disbelief at finally receiving justice. With Abubakar sentenced to prison, Amina felt a weight lift off her shoulders. Although healing would be a long journey ahead filled with ups and downs, she finally felt free from his control over her life. The support from Zainab and other survivors became even more crucial during this time as they encouraged each other through therapy sessions focused on trauma recovery. Amina began exploring hobbies that brought joy back into her life. Painting became an outlet for expressing emotions that words sometimes failed to capture. She found solace in creating art that reflected both pain and hope, a testament to resilience forged through adversity.